to Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series about to take to the racetrack for our first practice for the American Commercial Lines 200. Hampton, Georgia, just a bit south of Atlanta. A little bit of an overcast day here in the area. The meteorologists were calling for a sunny and 70-degree day. It might get there, but right now the clouds are hanging over the racetrack and a slight breeze that's heading at them down the backstretch. Hello, everyone. Rick Allen, Phil Parsons, Michael Waltrip back with you here on Speed. We want to talk a little bit about practice. Obviously, we've had 2 races already, but a week off, so they get a little time to fix and fine-tune these vehicles. What are we going to see here at Atlanta?
Well, you're going to see some anxious race truck drivers because they've raced 3 times. This will be the 3rd time in 4 weeks. But now then they're going to take 3 weeks off. They don't get to race for 3 weeks, so they're going to want to get it done here in Atlanta. This is the most important race of the season to these guys, right, Phil?
Absolutely, because it's the next one.
It's the next one. You're right. and don't be fooled by what's happening right now on the track. Practice just started. Was there a rush onto the track?
No.
One guy, Mike Skinner, decided he'd go try it out. Everyone else tucked away in the garage area. But that doesn't mean this practice session isn't very important. It's important because they want to learn about these trucks, but they got to be conservative with their tires, Phil.
They really do. They only get 4 sets of tires for this entire weekend. So a lot of the guys are still either on top of the truck or in the lounges watching this broadcast to see what people are doing. But, you know, when you come here to Atlanta, you know this is a wide open racetrack. So when these guys go out here, again, it's been 2 weeks since they've been in the truck. When Mike Skinner goes out there, he's going to be on the mat all the way around this racetrack.
When is he not,
upwards of 175 miles an hour. So I don't care who you are. That first time you drive down in the corner, you know, your brain wants to tell you to lift.
Right.
But you don't do it. You can't do it.
Race car drivers generally have a rule. If I'm not at Daytona or Talladega, I let off. But that's not an option here in the Truck Series at Atlanta. They have to run wide open through these corners. And Mike Skinner is the only guy on the track, but every other race car driver and every other team is watching to see what Mike Skinner's doing. How fast will his truck go? They know he's fast, so they want to see what kind of pace he's setting on these tires that they're going to be running on here this weekend. So a lot of people are more curious about what Mike Skinner's doing maybe than Mike Skinner is right now.
Well, 2 of the best in the business are down in the garage to keep us informed as to what's going on. Let's find out. Ray, what's your brain thinking that's going to go on today?
Well, today, Rick, I'm going to be keeping my eye on Dennis Setzer. Now, he is going to be, with my brain, you never know for sure, but Dennis Setzer is in the 8 truck today, and I think it's going to be interesting because these guys have a different agenda for the year. They are going out to try to win races for MRD Motorsports, not necessarily worried about the championship picture. As of right now, we know that Dennis Setzer will run 16 races for this team, but that may be it. So they have said, let's bring in this veteran. Let's get him in our truck. We know we've got really good equipment on the 1.5 miles, and we're going to try to build on our short track program. So we know for sure that Setzer will be at Martinsville. That should be interesting to watch his combination. But realize last year, this 8 truck was very, very good on the 1.5 miles. So I'm going to keep an eye on Setzer today just to see if they're as good as Randy Dean and this team think the 8 truck is. Adam?
And when you talk about Dennis Setzer, Ray, you talk about a guy who's a great veteran in the Camping World Truck Series. Another is Rick Crawford. And this weekend, he is set to make his 300th series start. That's more than any driver in history in the Truck Series. That's a pretty big deal. And perhaps some irony in this, a young 30-something, Matt Crafton, making his 200th career start this weekend. Both of them very good at Atlanta over the years. It will be fun to watch them as they take their steps toward a big milestone at Atlanta, guys.
Well, thank you, Adam Alexander. There we see a young driver and Colin Brown talking with the veteran, Todd Bodine, up on top of their haulers. Again, practice has been underway for the past 4 minutes now, but we're not seeing a lot of trucks on the track right now. Are you surprised by that?
No, not at all. Like I said, they have to be conservative about their tires. They get 4 sets for the race tomorrow. They get 5 for the weekend, but we've seen guys only run on 1 set of tires and save all 4 of those sets of tires for the race on Saturday, Phil.
Yeah, they actually have to turn that 5th set of tires in after practice, so they will have the 4 sets only for the race.
There's Matt Crafton. He's in street clothes. I mean, he doesn't even look like he's going to practice today.
Well, you know, they have another practice coming up here in a little while, so maybe they're planning on running that 2nd practice.
We saw the magic number of 300 for Rick Crawford as far as starts. Matt Crafton will be making his 200th start tomorrow in the Camping World Truck Series.
We talked about Skinner being a fast guy. He went out there and just right out of bed this morning ran a couple 3 laps. One of them was within 3/10 of what the pole was here a year ago. So he's up to speed right away.
And his last lap was 2/100ths of a second slower than his best lap. So you know he's wide open all the way around here, because that's what he's got right now is a 3180. Remember now, this is not qualifying trim. More than likely he's out there in somewhat race trim. So I look for those speeds to be close to what that pole was last year.
Definitely.
Window net goes up on the number 4. Ricky Carmichael will be racing tomorrow at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Speed presentation of NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice from Atlanta is brought to you by Camping World. Visit campingworld.com and check out this week's featured special, Checkered Flag Recliners. Johnny Sauter, that's rookie Johnny Sauter on the racetrack in his Fun Sand number 13.
Yeah, which is really hard to say that Johnny's a rookie here in this series. He has obviously a lot of Cup experience and has been a Cup regular for a number of years. And
he almost won a truck race a couple years back.
ORP, wasn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And we call him a rookie because he is eligible for Rookie of the Year, and he's running for Rookie of the Year. Now, when Mark Martin talked about coming and running the full season in the Truck Series, he also would have been eligible to be Rookie of the Year.
Well, not that full season, because he ran a number of races the year
Right.
before. But when he ran the number of races, when he had a bunch of wins,
Yep.
he technically could have been classified as a rookie that year and elected not to do that.
He just didn't sign up.
He just didn't sign up for the program.
He thought that might be
But there are some advantages to that, too. Obviously, Johnny Sauter right here, more than likely he will get.
I'm just wide open every lap.
And he's wide open every lap, as you heard him say. And that's very, very close, within a couple hundredths of a second off of what Mike, actually a couple hundredths of a second faster than Mike Skinner. But Johnny Sauter and the other rookies that are applied for the program get an extra set of tires typically. Now they will have to turn that set of tires in addition to another set of tires. But basically NASCAR, because they're rookies, they give them an extra set of tires. So it's a huge advantage, especially for somebody like Johnny Sauter with all that experience, to get that extra set of tires.
You know, you heard Johnny Sauter saying, I'm wide open all the time. The crew chief should have said, well, good, you're first. You're there's only
By the way, you went faster than everybody else.
There's only been 2 other guys, but you're the fastest of them, so good job. We're proud of you.
Adam Alexander, how's TJ Bell doing?
Well, he's doing fine right now. I guess the verdict will come in the next few minutes. As you can see, he has pulled out of his garage stall. He will take his turn around the Atlanta Motor Speedway. And here's a guy that's been with a couple of different teams over the course of the last year, but his production has been very good. He had that string of consecutive top 10s, you may remember, in the middle part of 2008. Off to a pretty good start in 2009. This team still searching for sponsorship. It's kind of a race-by-race thing, but they feel very confident coming off a solid top 5 at California, and this a facility that he likes as well, being Atlanta, Ray.
And we want to talk to Kevin Harvick. Got your first career Cup win here, but now making a Truck Series start. What that's all about?
Well, it's just have fun, really, and to make room, we already had the sponsorship sold for a charter on our Silverado here, and make room for Ricky to drive the 4-truck this weekend. So we're excited. It'll be a fun place to race.
I know it's early in the season, Kevin, but your big picture look at how the teams have done so far in the first 2 races.
I think we've started off as good as we can. I think Hornaday's been solid week in and week out. Daytona and California usually aren't our strongest racetracks, and to come here to Atlanta where he's run so good, we're looking forward to this weekend. And Ricky's kind of exceeded our expectations as far as how he's kind of adapted to everything, so we want to keep that going.
Okay, good luck to you guys. Remember, Hornaday finished 2nd in the last 3 races here at Atlanta. Ryan Newman went to victory lane here in the fall for driving for Harvick.
There's Chad McCumbee right there. Chad just jumped to the top of the board. What great pit strategy those guys employed at California to get a good top 5 finish. That was a terrific job by everybody at S&S Greenlight Racing. Chad McCumbee and all his guys, Bobby Dotter. And top of the board right now, Mikey.
Yeah, what about those first 3 trucks? We got a 3180, an 82, and an 84, split up by just 200ths of a second each. They said they were wide open.
And I believe them.
They must have them tuned down about the like as well.
Max Pappas and the Geico Toyota out of Germain Racing had a great run at California Speedway. Had a top 10 finish. You can see this is only his 4th career appearance, but a great top 10 for Max Pappas. And really, I think Geico is really doing it the right way. He's announced that he's going to run a limited schedule in the Sprint Cup Series, and they're going to try to get him some extra track time. They're not even racing here in the Sprint Cup division with Max, but they're going to run here in the fall, so they're going to get him some extra track time here, so they know when he comes back in the fall, he's going to be a little better prepared.
Well, and you want to have a picture of enthusiasm. Did you see Max Pappas when he made that race out in Vegas when he came in? That's how we all feel when we do a good lap. You know, everybody feels that same way, but after you've done it a few times, you sort of have all that inside, and it was so fun to see it all come out with Max.
I mean, it was such a big deal for him. That was his first. He made the comment, "That's my first oval race that I've made in the Cup Series," and he was ecstatic.
I haven't seen him that happy since he kissed Adam I think, at Texas in the pre-race show. Or was that the good witch? He kissed?
I think he hopefully kissed Glinda. Adam will never agree to that again.
My thing is, though, can you blame him, guys? I mean, you guys were with me before that race. You know what I was looking like.
And I really had to work hard to stay away from you. Gabby DiCarlo back in the Camping World Truck Series. Once again, she ran out in California 2 weeks ago, and she'll head back out onto the track for practice here momentarily. Thursday on an all-new Bull Run, what began as a simple competition has grown into an intense rivalry, and disaster strikes when the teams push the limits of speed and strategy too far, too fast, and this time the consequences are bigger than ever. Don't miss an all-new Bull Run with Bill Goldberg. That's Thursday night, 10 Eastern, exclusively on Speed.
See Kevin Harvick taking a look at Ricky Carmichael's Monster Energy drink. Chevrolet, one of 3 cars out of the KHI stable this week. Kevin was so positive. We were talking to him in the garage area, Rick, right before we came up here for this practice show, and just so complimentary of Ricky and how quick his learning curve is, and they really want to keep it going, and that's why they're here. This was not really one of the races that Ricky was scheduled to run, and Kevin said, hey, he did so well at California. He was doing great till he got taken out in Daytona in a wreck not of his making. We're going to keep that thing going, right, Adam?
Yeah, and I was talking to Ron Hornaday, his teammate, who is no doubt the veteran in the stable, Phil, and one of the things he pointed out this morning is how humble Ricky is and how eager to learn he is when it comes to stock car, stock truck racing in this situation. And that's what's so cool about him. A guy that's got an amazing background on 2 wheels, all those accomplishments, he's put it all behind him and brought a new, fresh attitude to the NASCAR side, and that is what really makes you want to root for driver 4, Ray.
And Adam, over on this side, Gabby DiCarlo getting ready to get in to hopefully make her 2nd appearance in the Camping World Truck Series. Now, of course, Great Clips is a sponsorship over here, and I have taken this side of the garage over here because I actually do go to Great Clips and I get my hair cut, and I figured I'd know a little more about this team maybe than Adam, who doesn't need to get his hair cut very often.
Wow. Oh my goodness. You know, we are friends. I just want to make sure everybody understands we are all friends.
Russell's over there smiling. He's not saying a word. I took Macy to Great Clips the other day, and I went over there I got a haircut, you know, and I asked her if she wanted to get a haircut. She said, no, I don't think Mom would want me to. And I said, she won't know. Let's just cut a little bit off of it. And they took that machine and rubbed our back, you know, give you a massage. Golly, I loved it.
It's an experience. It's not just going.
And you know what? We walked right in, sat down, and next thing I know, my hair's cut.
hey, let's keep an eye on.
Macy's wasn't.
Macy's wasn't.
Let's keep an eye on this 81 and see how he does as far as getting through the corners here. Phil, I was joking with him a little bit before we came out. Yesterday, there was a charity event in the area here, which was a skeet shoot, and Taylor Mousom was my teammate, and so he was out there shooting a shotgun for really the first time he had ever done it. And he said today, he goes, you know, my shoulder was getting a little bit sore, so I moved it over to the bicep, and he goes, that might not have been such a good idea. So
Taylor's not a big guy either.
No, but he did a great job. He and his buddy Sam, they were excellent.
We've had somewhere near 15 trucks go out on the road so far, Phil. These guys are getting a feel of it. Only a couple laps at a time. And the reason why that is, these guys have set these trucks up at the shop. They pull them down on their pull-down machines. They understand where the splitter lands. They understand how they think the truck will travel. Then they go out and confirm it. Like Skinner like Bliss, for example, some of these guys that are now Bliss up to the top of the speed chart, Skinner in fourth, they just run a couple of laps, see where that splitter's hitting, figure out where their truck, if it's bottoming out, if there's any adjustments they need to make to it, they get that figured out right away. And they come in, tune on their truck, and then they'll go back out and maybe run a longer run next time.
Yeah, and that was Bliss was right behind Taylor Malsom, so the draft is very, very important here. Not as important as it is at Daytona or Talladega, but it is important here when you're running speeds upwards of 180 miles an hour on the straightaway. So he got a little help, but that did jump Mike Bliss and Curtis Key's truck to the top of the board with a 31.676.
Jim Busher on the racetrack now, another one of the Rookie of the Year competitors fighting for that honor at the season's end. Atlanta Motor Speedway, a very fast racetrack. How about the Onion? He's finally ready to go back on the track, so we'll see him on this 1.5 miles when we come back with more practice here on Speed. Atlanta is filled with NASCAR today. Later on, it's 1:30 p.m. Camping World Truck Series practice once again. Then Sprint Cup will take to the racetrack. Tomorrow, the Camping World Truck Series qualifying at 9:30, 11 o'clock. Sprint Cup Series practice, and at 1:30 we'll kick off the Camping World Truck Series setup with the race starting at 2, and then Sunday a full slate as well right here on Speed and Fox. Cup cars getting tuned up, fine-tuned and ready to go. They'll be out on the racetrack a little bit later. Todd Bodine on the track now.
Glad you see he has Geico come on board again for Germain Racing. You know, we were talking to the team manager down there, Mike Hillman Sr., and this is our championship winning team from about, what, 2006?
2006. Yep,
One Daytona, won 3 races last year, and they may not be in Martinsville the next race for the Camping World Truck Series.
Yeah, when Mike Hillman Sr. told me that, it shocked me, because I thought, wait a second, there's no way we could not have a Todd Bodine out on the racetrack in the Camping World Truck Series. He said, economically, he said, I cannot physically say I can put that truck out on the racetrack if I can't find a sponsor. Yeah, so that's very really shocking.
I mean, we told him we absolutely need Todd Bodine in that truck race at Martinsville, and we certainly hope that somebody, we've got a couple 3 weeks now before Martinsville, and hopefully somebody will come on board to what a quality team that is.
Oh, yeah.
It has been from the, I mean, they won their 3rd or 4th race ever in the series back in 2003, 2004, whenever they started. I mean, they've won a number of races. They won with Ted Musgrave. Yeah. That was also part of the team that Max got that top 10 finish with in California a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, great story on the Germain Racing program tomorrow during the setup with Chris Devoto, so you want to make sure to stay tuned for that. Tomorrow, again, that kicks off at 1:30 with the setup. Great story on Germain Racing. Adam Alexander.
You guys talk about the Truck Series without Todd Bodine. I think the Truck Series would be in shock if Rick Crawford were not involved. Career start 300 this weekend. How special is that milestone for you, because you are kind of a NASCAR historian?
Well, I appreciate that. It's pretty neat for me, but to be associated with Tom Mitchell's out in Southwest Texas with the Circle Bar Motel and RV Park for so long. 18 years with them, but 13 years in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series with the same owner, same manufacturer, and a few different sponsors along the way. But this week, you know, for the last couple of years, we've had the International Truck and Engine brand, and to represent those companies and put on a great show for the fans has made it all worthwhile.
And Rick has been on track, looks good, currently top 5 as far as the speed charts are concerned. And what's great about Crawford, 300 starts, guys, and he's been competitive in virtually every one of them.
You know, guys, I was talking to Rick Crawford, you know, back, I don't know, a year or so ago, and we were talking about things, and he said, well, he said, I can assure you one thing, if Mr. Mitchell has a truck or a car in any series, it's gonna have a blue oval on it, because it's gonna be a Ford. He's never run anything but Fords.
Yeah. David Starr coming off the track, kind of quick there.
Yeah, he ran.
3 and 4 is really good. Just getting to the one, getting right to the center there. I just get a little loose right in the center.
Chances are he's coming up off the gas too, Phil, and that coming off the gas will happen. These guys will start lifting in the corners eventually, but you see these fast times, Ron Hornaday, Mike Bliss, Chad McCumbee, these guys are running up over 170 some miles an hour. They're wide open.
Look how close it is right now. We've got from first back to 12th within 0.4 of a second. I mean, we talk about how good the racing is here at Atlanta. Well, that's why the racing is good here at Atlanta. The fields are so competitive, especially here in the Truck Series.
Yeah, and we mentioned the wide open. Again, a reminder, in the Camping World Truck Series and the Nationwide Series, they run a tapered spacer on these motors. So initially they can run wide open. They're not producing as much horsepower, but the tires are going to wear out eventually.
That's why when David Starr was explaining that his truck got loose, he was obviously coming off the gas in the center of the corner. Now early in the going, that means out of the 19 trucks, he's only 14th fastest. But if he's able to tweak that truck a little bit where maybe he doesn't run that fast lap, but he can continue to run his gas closer to the floorboard than those guys. You know, when your truck's set up perfect to run wide open as soon as you go on the track, it probably needs some work in order to be right for the long run.
Yeah.
And we historically see long runs here at Atlanta. We see a lot of stuff here at Atlanta. These guys put on a heck of a show on Saturday afternoon.
You see these guys, TJ Bell, for instance, right down on the bottom of the racetrack. Well, they won't stay there all day long on Saturday.
He didn't stay there. He started out there, but he had to fight that truck all the way up the hill of the racetrack. You can see it's probably just a little tight on him. It looks like it pushed up in turn 1 and 2. He held it down nicely there in 3 and 4. Boy, he did another great job out of California.
Sure, really, really impressive out there.
I like watching that kid race. He gets with it.
Got his career first top 5 finish. Some pretty bad bumps getting down in one here too.
See the truck wash up. It looked like it looks like the back end's coming out. Maybe he's following it up the hill.
He could be chasing it up the hill instead of the front end going up the hill.
And again, a week ago we had
entry in 1 and 2 over the bumps. We lose the front end. It skips up the racetrack, and then it'll start grabbing and it makes us loose again. But it's like we need to control the left front a little bit better.
We agree. We agree with that.
Yeah, he went through there the first time. I said he was pushing. He went through there the second time. Said it looked like he's loose. Well, I was right.
He was both.
he was both.
he was loose and tight and everything else. So he'll continue to work on it. Again, a winter storm went through a week ago. So these are the first vehicles to be on the racetrack. So it's a very green track. They're still putting the rubber down.
And really, really close to. Look at the competition.
When you talk about great finishes, you've got to mention Ron Hornaday in 2005 when he's side by side, door to door, coming out of turn number 4 with Bobby Labonte and crosses the start finish line 8/1000ths of a second in front of Bobby Labonte.
He was sideways. they had made contact. He was sideways, never lifted and got it to the finish line.
A little bit cooler is owner there, Kevin Harvick, congratulating him in victory lane. Again, tomorrow it kicks off at 1:30 with Camping World practice, or excuse me, later today. But tomorrow at 1:30, the setup will get us underway, and the green flag will fly just after 2 o'clock. We talk about close finishes. We had a real close one here in 05. Take a look at that. The 5 closest finishes ever.
Yeah, Michigan was last year. Eric Darnell beating Johnny Benson by about 1 3/8 inches is what they computed that 5/1000th of a second to be.
Amazing. Adam Alexander.
And you talk about Ron Hornaday and his success at Atlanta. And you know, it's interesting. You've won 13 times for Kevin Harvick, the first ever coming here, and you're at the top of the board today. How is the truck?
The same truck. The BMW Chevrolet's running real good, and got a pretty good cold going right now. Hopefully I'm kicking it, but nothing better than getting in that truck and smell the exhaust and everything. But KHI's been working really hard. Same truck we ran here last time, so we'll make a couple changes and see what we got.
He's a competitive guy. 3 consecutive runner-up finishes here, Ray. I would say Horn Dog is hungry this weekend.
And Adam, I'd like to add Chad McCumbee to the list of guys that's hungry for a win. You just about got one here at Atlanta a year ago. Tell me how good your truck is today.
I tell you what, the SS Greenlight Chevy's really good. I was super excited when I first unloaded. I mean, that was 2 really easy first laps, and I'm happy right now. I mean, the same truck we had in California, and we went through and tried to make a couple improvements, and these guys are doing a great job. I think everybody's super pumped up over here. You know, we had a great run in there in California, and it's looking like we may have another good one here.
We're ready for that first win. Chad McCumbee finished second a year ago at Lowe's Motor Speedway. Still looking for his first shot at victory lane.
And that very race at Lowe's Motor Speedway was when Matt Crafton got his very first win in this series.
That's right. That looks like lunch right there.
Looks good.
Oh, that's Mikasuki Racing's chef there, looks like, Billy Ballou, and Kyle Busch's team. Kyle, our most recent winner, California, a couple weeks ago.
Brent Raymer on the racetrack now, and he's number 85.
What a hit he had at Daytona.
Oh my goodness.
Man, it's great to see Brent back here at this racetrack.
What 2 big hits he had.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Throttle hung and went right back to the outside wall one more time. But the great thing was the safety in these vehicles is getting so good that he walked to the ambulance after.
Well, I was shocked that he did. That was as hard as you're going to hit these days. Right into a concrete wall.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't have the benefit of hitting the safer barrier where he wrecked at.
See him chasing it up the hill. He got a little bit jukey there in the bumps and had to chase it up the hill.
Now, a lot of times we talk about bumps at a racetrack. More than not, they're around the tunnel. I mean, we see bumps normally in the tunnel area, but sometimes, I mean, we're talking about bumps in one. There's nothing around there as far as tunnel wise. The tunnel's over in turn 2.
It's just age. You know, the asphalt's going to shift. Things are going to give, and the weather and the climate here in the South being so hot in the summer and cold in the wintertime, you're just going to have the ground give a little bit and the track gives with it, and I think that's a good thing. I think I think race car drivers in general think that's a good thing. You don't want a perfectly smooth track. You want to have somewhere you got to bounce around and find you a new place to go race at, you a new groove,
and separate things, separate drivers a little bit. I mean, obviously when they repaved Talladega, you could not have done a better paving job than they did at Talladega.
Well, and that's perfect for Talladega, because you're running wide open. The draft is so key to what you have to do there. That's a perfect scenario for that track. But here you want to have the track you need to have that character in the track, so you got to come up off the gas, lift a little bit. Maybe another guy goes a little bit longer way around the track, but he doesn't have to lift because he's up there. That is character, and that's what I think people enjoy so much about this track specifically.
We talk about characters. Right on lap.
Guys, let me add a little bit on Johnny Benson. He's saying a little bit about what you're talking about. Johnny said his truck is really good going down into 1 and 2, but when he gets to 3 and 4, he's dragging the left front splitter all the way through the corner. So apparently the corners are very different, or the way he's entering them, one or the other. So they're going to go to work on the left front of this #1 Toyota Tundra and try to get it up off the track. He said it's very uncomfortable coming through 3 and 4.
Yeah, I don't think Johnny actually even made a complete lap there. There's Colin Brown, the Conway Ford out of the Roush Fenway stables.
He's currently up in the 6th spot. Let's listen to him run the gas, Phil.
When we talk about running wide open here, we're not exaggerating. I mean, they're literally running this thing with that right foot on the mat all the way around.
Listen, kid, this is a harder turn.
Had to let off.
He pedaled a little bit there. If he comes in, that may have been. I think he's going to stay out there. No, he's coming in. So that was probably just a little bit of added.
I'm coming to you.
He didn't like it. He was out on the mat in 3 and 4.
Now he's not coming to us.
I was moved, but now it was down there like in the center, 1 and 2, starting to get real tight.
Must have decided he needed to fill it again. No, I
think he's definitely going to come out in the pits this time.
That time, that lap there, when he was just talking and taking his time around the track, he still ran over 170 mile an hour.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's misted down there in 1 and 2 or what, but I definitely got some stuff on my windshield too.
Yeah, we were noticing that up here in the booth, and we didn't know if maybe, maybe it was sprinkling down there or what. But a sprinkle on the windshield of a race truck or a race vehicle looks like you're pouring buckets on there. So.
RockinghamSpeedway.com. The Carolina 200 coming up April 19th for the ARCA Remax Series. And that will be right here on Speed as well. You have to tune in for that. More practice continuing from Atlanta. We return. Tonight, get fired up for the wildest party in Hotlanta, NASCAR trackside. Join Steve Burns, DW, Larry Mack, and Hollywood Hammond as they welcome the biggest names in NASCAR for Friday Night Bash. Don't miss NASCAR trackside tonight, 5:30 p.m. Eastern. NASCAR on Speed. Tonight, it's David Rudiman, Casey Kane, Ricky Carmichael will be the guests, so you won't want to miss it.
What a great run by Rudiman at last week, huh?
It was so fun to watch Dave and his team. Rodney Childers, they just got together. You know, this is their third race together.
Yeah.
And to pump out a top 5. Not only that, but the way they ran at Daytona and Vegas, being top 5 in the points, I think it says a lot for David, because there's been a lot of changes with that team. And at MWR, being a new organization, a lot of changes since he started there. He's been the constant. He's been the glue that's held that group together. And now they're all rallying around him. And darn, I believe he could win the race here on Sunday, Phil.
Yeah.
You know, that's really, it seems like to me, it's so important to have that chemistry, the right chemistry, because, you know, we saw David in the Truck Series have so much talent, and we thought that was going to transfer over into the Cup Series, and it's taken, I think, the two guys to get together to find that chemistry to have the success.
Well, I like the way he and Ryan worked together last year. You see the safety truck here. We've gone under a red flag here. They threw it over the oil that had fallen out. I think they said the 40 truck might have been leaking a little bit of oil, so they're just out
Mike Bliss
checking the track. We got a line of trucks, 3 or 4 trucks on pit road that are ready to go. But what I was saying is David has been the constant. You know, he's been the glue. He's been the guy that they all have rallied around, and so he and Rodney work perfect together. And you're right, you can't buy chemistry. It just has to happen, and they've developed it in 3 races.
You know, MWR is going to be the subject of the real deal on a race day show on Sunday morning at 11:30.
Perfect. Want to tune in? Wendy Benarini takes us in farther depths to the MWR Racing Organization. Adam Alexander.
And we talk a lot about patience today as far as tire management goes, and Matt Crafton, one of the guys playing the waiting game. Now, this is your favorite racetrack, so I thought you'd get here and want to jump right out there, but you're one of the guys yet to take laps. What is your game plan for the day?
I mean, trust me, I want to get it and go out there. I mean, crew chiefs had me chained to the back of the semi, not letting me get in the truck, but the tires are just huge here. Last year we ran 6 laps and I quartered the right rear tire, and then we had to pretty much set and wait the rest of practice and just put 2 right sides at the end of practice and work on our stuff, and it really hurt us. So we just wanted to get out and let some people get some Goodyear rubber down, and I really, really love this truck. This truck is a brand new truck that we had in California, and it was really fast, so I think it should be just fine here.
I still think of you as a young guy. 200th career start on Saturday. What do you think?
I didn't know that until like 2 days ago. Somebody called me and actually told me that, and I had no idea. And then you were asking me how old I was, and I said, how old do I look? But
I said 24.
Yeah, exactly. I said, exactly. You're really close. This Menard Chevy's going to be good this weekend, I really believe. So this is by far my favorite racetrack. There's nothing better than to go out and drift at 180 miles an hour. I mean, that's what this place is. It's just becoming a big Darlington. That's what I picture this racetrack as now. It's just wore out, and it's a driver's racetrack.
Matt Crafton, not the only guy waiting. Kyle Busch is as well, but both now in their driver's suits and ready to head toward the track.
23 trucks have been out on the racetrack for this first practice run. Hornaday, the fastest of those 23. We'll be right back. On Monday, Steve Burns, Michael Waltrip, and Greg Biffle break down all the action from Atlanta on This Week in NASCAR. The panel will also preview the Bristol race. And you don't want to miss a feature with Greg Biffle and his dad. This Week in NASCAR, Mondays at 8 Eastern, only on Speed. Gabby DiCarlo coming off the racetrack in her Great Clips number 90.
She made a lap, but she's the slowest of the 24 trucks that have been on the track. Looked like she got a little bit jiggy with it there, Phil.
Yeah, let's take a look. Like this is while we were in commercial break. Gabby had a great top 20 run in her first outing at California, a little bit sideways through that part of the racetrack.
And this is why you're trying to run wide open at 170 miles an hour too, by the way.
Now you see she'd been on the truck watching. She'd been hearing us talk about everybody wide open. So I guarantee you she went out there and put it on the map.
Decided everybody else is doing it, why can't I?
But you got to have a truck. We heard Matt Crafton say this is a driver's track. I like to think most of them are. But you have to have something to drive in order to get the job done. She went out there and did what they told her, run wide open, and about crashed. Think about Todd Bodine winning Daytona. What kind of driver did it take to do that? I mean, you got to be crazy and up on the chip every lap of the race in order to try to win down at Daytona. This place is indeed a driver's track. It has different characteristics in Daytona, but she just showed you right there. She was the driver. She went for it. Her truck said, let's go to the pit.
I might not be ready for this yet.
We were watching that promo for This Week in NASCAR, and they had a shot of the Sprint Cup cars going through the corner, and they were side by side, and then a green car came around the outside, made it 3 wide around the top of the racetrack, and that's what we see all day here. We'll see that Saturday and as well as Sunday with the Sprint Cup race on Fox.
Ricky Carmichael coming back off the racetrack, it looks like. As we see Johnny Benson turning laps. Johnny was also at that charity event yesterday.
He likes to shoot, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, and did a fine job. Well, that was for the Speedway Children's Charity, that event yesterday.
Johnny's made some changes to that truck. Trip Bruce and his guys, and they've got hopefully got up off the racetrack. Johnny has been able to complete a lap now. He's down towards the bottom of the sheet. He's 23rd quickest now. It looks like he's coming.
Real good in 3 and 4. I'm still just bumping the track a little bit in 1 and 2. When it bumps the track in 1 and 2, I lose the front end on it.
Now you see he's 20, what, Phil? He's 23rd out of 25 trucks, and you didn't hear any
panic.
No desperation, no panic. He just explained to him what he's doing. They're going to work on it some more. That's experience. Now Gabby, when that thing turned sideways, she might have said, I thought y'all said I had to run wide open. It didn't do that.
And I thought you said it was going to be easy.
What happened? I don't understand.
Skinner back out on the racetrack. Again, he was first on the racetrack, turning a 32.295 the last time he was on the track. His quickest lap, 31.844, slots him 5th. Ray Dunlap.
You know, Rick, you guys were watching Johnny Benson on the track. He's driving a chassis that came from Bill Davis Racing, old number 73. Johnny's won a lot of races in it. But when we look at Mike Skinner, one of the things that I find interesting, now that he came over to Randy Moss Motorsports, even though they're driving Toyotas, none of the trucks in their stable for Mike Skinner came from Bill Davis Racing. Skinner had a couple of favorites up there, but this team chose to use trucks they already had in their inventory and rebody them from Chevrolets over to Toyotas. And of course, they're in the process of building some brand new chassis for Skinner. So I think it'll be interesting to watch Mike Skinner as he adapts to some different chassis that he hasn't driven in the past. This truck is one that they used last year on the intermediate track, excuse me. Skinner has been asking for a little help from his spotter, Mike Swaim, to give him a good idea of the attitude of that splitter as it's coming through the corners. Adam?
And Ray, we told you Kyle Busch is in the garage area. He's yet to get in the truck. So what's his crew chief do? Doug George taking an opportunity to catch lunch here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. They too are going to focus most of their practice time in the second of the 2 sessions later this afternoon. And I was talking to Doug in Victory Lane after he helped lead Kyle to what was his first ever win as a crew chief. And they were calling him in for pictures. And he said, man, I've never done this before. I said, well, you better get used to it, because I got a feeling if you're crew chiefing for Rowdy, you're going to be doing it a lot in the future.
Yeah, that was a great win for Doug George and Kyle Busch and that entire Miccosukee Toyota team. Billy Ballou, you know when Kyle Busch is in that truck that it's going to be up front, and he's finished second and first in the 2 races this year, just like he did last year.
Already has 3 wins in the 3 different series of NASCAR to start off the 2009 season. Back in 2004, Mike Skinner was battling door to door with the late Bobby Hamilton as they came out of turn 4. Skinner slides sideways across the start finish line in second behind Bobby Hamilton, who got that win.
Yeah, that was the first race we ever had here in the Truck Series, Atlanta Motor Speedway, and wow. Here's our advanced auto parts menu, Rick.
Next up will be NASCAR Live, and then Camping World Truck Series back on the track at 1:30. 3 o'clock, it's Sprint Cup's turn to take to the track. NASCAR Live at 4:30. Smarts at 5 o'clock today. And then trackside and Sprint Cup qualifying will end up the day at 6:30.
I think folks can pretty much lock down their TV on speed today. What do you think?
I think so.
What's Smarts? Is that a new show?
NASCAR Smarts.
I like that.
Oh, boy. I'll tell you, Rutledge Wood and Kyle Petty get a couple fans as their teammates.
Compare knowledge.
Oh, boy.
Would we qualify for NASCAR Smarts?
You know what? I always...
If Kyle and Rutledge do, I think we're fine.
Well, hey, look at that. The King.
Wow, I remember that car.
You know, I think they should use like a phone a friend, and I think you guys ought to be on the speed dial.
I like that.
As far as the knowledge, NASCAR knowledge that
I had that poster of that 43 car and the 21 Pure Later car of David Pearson and Junior Johnson's 11 car with Kel Yarborough and Bobby Allison's Coca-Cola number 12.
Yep.
I had that poster in my
Also
bedroom.
Junior Johnson.
you guys have the same poster.
Probably did.
I had a couple other ones too, but that one was my favorite.
Farrah Fawcett.
Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Max Pappas on the racetrack now in his number 9 Geico Toyota Tundra. Max with a top 10 finish in California 2 weeks ago. in the Camping World Truck Series. And
just outside the top 10 on his first run out. He was 12th fastest. So probably speeds will fall off quite rapidly here, Phil. Do you agree?
Well, I would have thought so too. But you know, some of the guys have probably
tuned on their
trucks a little bit. Some of the guys that maybe were a little off to start with may be better. But yeah, the guys like right now, Hornaday is really only about a tenth and a half off his fast lap, but he's only been out twice too.
Well, and Max has been out 3 times, and his lap there was a half second off already. So they'll lose close to 2 seconds during the course of a green flag run at this racetrack. They'll be up past 34 seconds running around here, right at it anyway.
And all they can do to run 2 seconds slower than what they could qualify.
Shane Sieg making his way out onto the racetrack. Now, how temperature sensitive is this racetrack? Because we thought it was going to be warmer today. We thought it was going to be in the 70s, and it's been overcast and it stayed somewhat cooler.
To me, early in the morning, even if it's going to be a warm day, when the day first starts, the track's got a lot more grip than it'll have after it's set all day long in the sun. So right now conditions are about perfect, and they will continue to be that way, it looks like, for most of the day. If this cloud cover holds in, it's not the ambient temperature so much as when that sun shines down and starts beating against this track that makes it lose its grip.
And that's why tomorrow morning when we qualify at 9:30, we're going to see some fast speeds. We will see that the pole from last year, which was about a 31.50, we will see that surpassed, I would think.
Now we'll get nowhere near the qualifying record here by Rick Crawford. He ran over 182 miles an hour here in a truck. We won't get anywhere near that because we've changed the engine rules since then.
We've knocked about 75 horsepower out of these engines with that tapered spacer that you were talking about, Rick.
And then back then, even with all that power, their crew chief would say it'll go wide open, just like Gabby's told her. It'll go, I promise. And Rick was silly enough to leave it on the mat, and he ran 182 some miles an hour one day.
Adam Alexander, what's going on in the garage?
Colin Brown went out early in this session, felt pretty good with it, so they changed some things. He went back out and said it wasn't very good. He just made his 3rd run of the day. Mike Beam, the crew chief, reading off lap times to him, said that's pretty good. Bring it in, let's park it. We don't want to wear out the tires, Ray.
And Mike Skinner in the top 5 on the charts right now. They're putting in a new right front spring on this X-Side Toyota, but they've got this thing jacked up in the air, guys, right now. But I want to show you about how tight the tolerances are. Look how this fender comes down on his right rear tire. They've had a little bit of rub. Now they pulled that thing out just the slightest little bit, but that's how tight your tolerances are. You want all that air to go by, but they were very, very close here. Tires will definitely be an issue for these drivers, so I expect Skinner to go out and run 2 or 3 more laps after they've changed this right front spring, and that'll be it for this first practice of the day.
Saw the transponder back there behind the right rear wheel as well. That's something that we talk about, the scoring and everything, that little box.
Yeah, that's what gives us all these lap times that we can tell. And we can tell that Colin Brown just ran a 32.02, which was only about a tenth and a half slower than his fastest lap, and he's been out 3 times, so I'd say his truck's pretty good, Mike.
Well, and that's what Mike Beam said. He said, I like it, come back to me.
Let it sit and we'll save our tires. A few of the other drivers taking that same strategy as they're just a handful of trucks on the racetrack right now. We'll be back. NASCAR from Atlanta. You're going to see most of it right here on Speed. A big day today, 1:30. The trucks are back on the track. Then 3 o'clock Sprint Cup practice. Qualifying for the Sprint Cup Series follows that. Tomorrow, qualifying at 9:30 on Speed. Then practice for the Cup Series and our race at 2 o'clock. Again, the setup at 1:30. Then Sunday, NASCAR race day at 11:30. The Fox team takes over for the Cobalt Tools 500. And then it all ends up with victory lane.
Do you know that on Speed you will have 9.5 straight hours of NASCAR racing today?
Why would you leave the house?
9.5 straight hours.
No reason to leave the house.
I got a Facebook page where my fans go, and 2 or 3 of them said, I've got to get all of my work done today because I can't leave tomorrow. I'm going to turn on Speed in the morning. I'll be there all day long. And I just love the fact that you can get all your information right here at one source. You know, tune in and you're going to hear from Rutledge and Kyle if you want to test your knowledge. You got ODW on trackside, all these guys wandering around here. You got Adam and Ray down in the pit.
And there's some knowledge there.
You got that right.
Now, Michael, I've been lucky enough that you have friended me on Facebook. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I like to have my buddies over. I got Phil as my friend, and he's mad at me because I add people every day, and he's like, I have to read where you're putting all these people on there. I don't understand why I got to look at all that. But we made a video the other day, and Phil was on it. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Phil. 300 starts for Rick Crawford tomorrow. Adam Alexander.
And TJ Bell, you guys talked about the fact that he got his first career top 5 finish last week at California. It doesn't look unbelievable on the speed chart, but you said you're not worried about that.
No, not at all. This thing's off the box. We're not the fastest, but this thing's completely drivable. Hold it wide open through 3 and 4. Long run here. We have a lot of laps on our tires, and we're being super consistent. So I think this Toyota Tundra for Red Horse Racing is going to be just as good as the one we had in California. So I look for a good day tomorrow and just qualify up front so we don't have to go to the back and do it the hard way again.
I think about that string of top 10s you put together last year and now the start in 09. What is your confidence level, TJ?
You know, it was good last year. It's even better now. And, you know, now being with Toyota and Red Horse Racing and all these guys on the 11 truck, they're unbelievable at boosting my confidence even more. They have a lot of faith in me, and I have a lot of faith in them. So, you know, like I said, I just can't wait. I wish we were racing every day the way it's going right now.
And if there was any question what number TJ is, it's 11. And we just need a sponsor that big to go with this suit, and he'll be on full time for the year, guys.
That may be the biggest number 11 I've ever seen on a uniform.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if TJ gets lost occasionally, doesn't it?
Well,
want to make sure he knows where to go.
He's waving to the other drivers as he's going by. You can tell who.
11. I'm 11.
I got number 11 on my sleeve. Todd Bodine, the Geico Toyota Tundra, making his way around the racetrack. Practice continues here on Speed. Sunday on Speed, NASCAR race day rolls into Atlanta, one of the fastest tracks on the circuit and one of the most unforgiving. It's racing on a razor's edge, and only one pre-race show can set the stage. NASCAR race day, built by the Home Depot. Live coverage begins Sunday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern.
Hey, Rick.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people watching at home. I just found out.
Because they're going to your Facebook page?
I got 47 ads, so I know there's 47 people watching at home right now, and I venture to guess there's a lot. This is interesting here, Phil. These two.
It really is. Now, Kevin Harvick drove out of the garage right behind his teammate Ron Hornaday to follow him and kind of see how these trucks run together. You see Hornaday wiggling through the corner there. You know, his splitter was down a little bit lower than Harvick's. Did you notice that when they went down the straightaway?
Look at these two trucks down the straightaway, the attitude of them. We talk all the time about the way some trucks are coil bound, some trucks aren't. These two trucks probably are going to look a whole lot alike on the racetrack. You see Harvick going up on the high lane already. They know that's where you're going to have to be if you're going to win. Now look at the difference.
Yeah, Harvick is a little bit higher than Hornaday with as far as his front splitter goes.
That's real good information for the team to have. This is good. This is good for them to study this video and see what their trucks look like. Maybe Hornaday's truck down on the bottom is a little bit better than Kevin's right now, but with Kevin on that high lane already, that'll probably pay off. We saw Ryan Newman where he went when he won this race last year.
These two working together. Again, it's a 3-truck team this weekend as Ricky Carmichael is added into the mix.
Remember now, realize this is the 3rd truck for Kevin Harvick. I don't think Kevin has ever run 3 trucks before, but Ernie Cope, who is Kevin's nationwide crew chief now, is actually running this truck this weekend for Kevin and all the nationwide guys.
What was the stat last year that they had 3 different drivers consecutively win a race from the same organization? Wasn't that, it was last year,
yes,
wasn't it?
Yes,
with Kevin Harvick Incorporated.
Yeah, it was Kevin, Hornaday, and Ryan Newman.
And Ryan Newman, 3 consecutive races and 3 different drivers from the same organization. That was very impressive.
We need to get our guys down there and see Ray or Adam to see what the feedback's going to be from that little session. Those two went out there on purpose and followed each other around, or at least Kevin followed Ron to see what they could learn.
And the last lap they ran, they were 2 1/1000ths of a second apart in their lap time, a 32.088 to a 32.090. And Kevin right now is still running in the 32.0s with 12 laps on his tires, which is a really good lap time for that many laps on his tires.
Well, we saw him on his 7th lap, I believe, post that 3rd fastest time, which is incredible that he has that much speed in the truck even after those laps.
Kevin bringing the truck back into the garage. Johnny Benson out of his truck talking with one of the Toyota engineers.
LZ.
Liarte.
Very, very involved in the series here. The truck always have been since they came in 2004. A very, very big part of the series. And I really attribute to Toyota saving the series back in 2004. I mean, there were a little bit of the luster had gone off the series, and when Toyota came in, Mikey, in 2004, Darrell was a part of that in 2004. It really pumped up this series.
Well, and not only did they save it in 2004, I think they're preserving it now. And look what they're doing on the nationwide side too. And even in the Cup Series, as times has gotten tough, it sure is good to have 4 manufacturers inside that garage area. Just add some more racing vehicles on the track for the fans to watch.
Kyle Busch getting ready to jump into that number 51, see if he can keep the streak alive. Our most recent winner at California. Hey, Mikey, you talked about it earlier. Can we find out what was learned between those two drivers on the racetrack? Adam Alexander, what was it?
I just talked to Rick Wren, the crew chief for Ron Hornaday, and I asked him what we saw on the racetrack, was it planned? And he said it was not. Kevin just happened to be in the area, thought he would follow him around. The two drive this track different, and so it was not something that they had orchestrated, something that simply happened by way of accident on the racetrack. And Rick said it is good from their standpoint, a technological standpoint, to watch the two trucks run that close together to see the differences and how they go over the bumps and through the corners and so on and so forth. But it was not something they had put together prior to those two being on track nose to tail.
Well, what would be interesting is if they were surprised by the fact that the 33 truck set quite lower on the straightaway than Harvick's truck did. I think if they're set up alike, then that wouldn't happen. They would wind up exactly the same. So I think that'd be interesting to find out as well, Adam.
Strapping into his truck is Rowdy Busch. We'll see him on the track here in just a few moments. Welcome back. NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice continuing from Atlanta Motor Speedway. Gabby DiCarlo back out on the racetrack in her great Clips Toyota Tundra.
She's going to see if it sticks better, right, Phil?
Yeah.
Looks like it did. She didn't try to pin it to the bottom either. She
ran a little higher line.
She respected it and gave it a little bit of room to go up the hill.
Starting to see a little more rubber being laid down on the racetrack. It's darkening up a bit.
You know, I heard Matt Crafton say that. You know, we saw Mike Skinner jump out there, the first guy. Well, by this point in time, these trucks have...
I don't know. It feels like it's just up in the air.
These trucks have cumulatively put over 100 and some laps on this track. And so now when Kyle Busch goes out, he's going to have some rubber that's been laid down. The track's a little bit different. That's probably a pretty good strategy.
Yeah, probably 250 laps on this racetrack right now.
So there's quite a bit more rubber than there was initially. So I think it was a good, as long as you're comfortable with your truck, just like Kyle Busch is comfortable with his truck because he knows that truck. He knows every time he gets to the racetrack it's going to be competitive, and he can afford to wait till the end of this practice session. Go out and make a couple laps and then get ready for the next practice session.
We see Kevin Harvick and Ron Hornaday talking with Rick Wren, and we see Todd Berrier over there.
Yeah, Todd's over there. Todd's very involved in what goes on and very very in tune to how Kevin runs his operation. I know Todd had a lot to do when Ron Hornaday really turned the corner and really started running well. Todd was very instrumental in getting them on the Coilbine setup.
You remember
when it was first coming into the truck series.
You remember that? That was like a light switch went off. That truck hadn't been overly competitive, and bam, they just hit it.
Sure did. Yeah.
I think it was like Charlotte or somewhere where he just mowed them over a couple years ago.
Ricky Carmichael now back out on the racetrack in his Monster Energy drink, number 4. The third truck for Kevin Harvick Incorporated here at Atlanta.
I know Ricky's excited to be here at Atlanta running this truck because he had so much success here in town in his other life, in his motocross, supercross life, and he said this is as close as he came to a home racetrack as here in Atlanta. So he's really, really excited to be here.
Yeah, I mean, people, these may just look like numbers to you, but how amazing is it? A guy can win 15 championships. I mean, that's just phenomenal. And obviously that's why he has the nickname that he's the greatest of all time.
Well, he should be 72 years old because he won all the championships. I mean, he's 29.
Yeah.
And you know what you get when you accomplish that? You get to be called a GOAT. Now, what kind of sense does that make? Unless you don't, if you don't know what that means, it doesn't make any sense.
I've heard people being called an old goat before, which was not really complimentary. We've got a goat in here in the booth with us. Do you hear that?
I think that was down in the trunk.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Was it? Okay.
I think it's one of our producer's pets. Yeah, Ricky Carmichael, a phenomenal career on 2 wheels and now trying to transfer some of that over to 4 wheels here in the Camping World Truck Series.
Uh-oh. There's a lot of stuff going on down in the truck. Y'all hearing all that?
Yeah. Let's go back to the garage in Double-A.
And we saw the meeting of the minds, all you guys from KHI, Rick Wren being the crew chief, of course, for Ron Hornaday. So how did the discussion go?
Well, it actually went pretty good. The 33 truck's usually pretty good here, so I brought the truck a little bit different to try something. And Kevin brought his truck, Ernie brought it for them the same way as we raced last fall. And so Kevin wanted to go out there, and he ran behind Ron just to move around and feel the air. And Kevin goes, man, I forgot how tight these trucks are when they're behind another truck. But I think it was good. You know, they moved around. Now they can sit and discuss things going through the bumps. Track's a little bit rougher than it was last year. Got a big bump getting down into 1, which is, there's already bumps there, but we kind of got a new one. So, but I think it was good for those 2 guys to follow each other, move around, feel the air a little bit. And Kevin tried those things that we started with on ours, because Kevin and I talked about the shop yesterday. And so I think we got a package we're working on.
Now, when you watch from a crew chief perspective and you get to see 2 trucks running together like that, what do you learn?
Well, it makes you feel good when they're both really good and you got 2 really good guys driving them, and they can set. And right here we're fine tuning. I mean, we're just picking out little bitty pieces at a time in little bitty corners of the racetrack, and it makes you feel good when you're kind of in charge of the program, and you know they're all the trucks that we just build.
So Harvick was out on track running with Hornaday. He came in here debriefed, and I would assume he's down checking on Carmichael now, guys.
I'd be interesting to see what these guys, maybe we can get with Harvick or Rick or somebody. Now see how low this truck is in the front, Phil? He said they built them all alike, right? And they built all of them. Check out right there where that truck is. Now right behind him, his teammate, Kevin, his owner, is behind him. Now watch. His just isn't quite as low.
Let me ask you, and again, this is coming from a guy who's just a play-by-play guy here, but is the fact that he's running second not as much air on the front end of that? Could that bring it up a bit?
It's a possibility, yeah, but I don't think it takes that much air away. But that's a good point, Rick. You could very well be right.
Ray Dunlap.
We heard Harvick talk about how tight he got when he was. So obviously he's not getting as much air on the front. So that could be a factor. Ray, have they said anything about that?
Yeah, Michael, that's exactly what Ernie Cope, the crew chief for Kevin Harvick, told me when I went over and I let him know that you guys were observing that their splitter was up. He said, I promise you, in the center of the corners, we're dragging the splitter all the way across, and it's a very even rub. He said, I'm pretty sure it was just an aero situation for Kevin following Hornaday. He said, whenever we get into the corner, we're as low as we can possibly make it.
Yeah, is there any way you can get them to go out there and flip it?
Yeah, we need to go out there and put Harvick in front. Because ask them if they would do that.
I know that he's as low as he can be in the center of the corner, but we see trucks all the time ride up. Their nose will come up on the straightaway, and I'd be interested to see if air could do all that.
Yeah, the guys in the booth would like you guys to go back out and Kevin lead for a while. We'll be right back with more practice. Speed's presentation of NASCAR Camping World Truck Series practice from Atlanta is brought to you by Camping World. Visit campingworld.com and check out this week's featured special, checkered flag recliners. Kevin Harvick chatting with Ricky Carmichael right now.
Was it you speculated that maybe Kevin had left the conversation down there with Ron Hornaday and went down to check on his other truck? Somebody speculated, and sure enough, there he is right there talking to the GOAT.
Ray Dunlap.
Hey guys, Terry Cook had a little bit of a scare on that last lap. He was going down the back straightaway and the engine just shut off. They weren't quite sure why. They have diagnosed it now that the A ignition box has gone bad here on this Harris Trucking Toyota. So Terry has switched it down to B, and they're going to go back to the track and try to make sure that's okay. They've added a little bit of air pressure in both of the front tires here. But Terry running on the B box, so that's a change they'll have to make in between these practices to put a second ignition box in that works. Adam?
And Colin Brown currently 7th on the board. So how was your truck?
It's really good, I think. You know, these guys on this number 6 Conway Freight Ford F-150 truck have been working hard back at the shop. This is actually the truck that Eric Darnell won Michigan with. So this is the first time we're using a 99 truck, but so far it's been pretty good for us, I think.
He won at Michigan. Does that add pressure to you this week?
I don't think so. You know, we know it's a good truck. We're just working on making it drive good here. You know, with the way we don't have many tires for this weekend, we're obviously having to be pretty smart about when we run and how much we run. So we're just trying to bide our time and be smart about, you know, using our tires wisely.
And correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I believe a Ford has never won in a truck at Atlanta.
That is accurate.
And that's really hard to believe.
Yeah. It is hard to believe, especially with all the success Ford has had here at Atlanta.
Exactly. You know, this used to be considered in the Cup Series a Ford track.
Right. Because of the way the engines, the RPM that the engines operated in here at Atlanta, it was always known as that.
Terry Cook back out on the racetrack again. Ray had talked about that ignition problem for them, the ignition box. They have 2.
Seen some good performance out of this truck this year, Phil.
Really have. Had a great run at Daytona, finished in 3rd place. Terrific job by these guys.
2 years since his last win for Terry Cook back in Kansas.
It's like he's bouncing a little bit more than he probably wants to be, and it bounced him up the hill somewhat. Pretty good attitude on that truck.
But that's what when we hear the guys talking on the radio, when we eavesdrop, they're always talking about the bumps inducing whatever problem they have. I got in the bumps and I lost the front end. I got in the bumps in the back end, kicked around. So it's really an engineer's nightmare trying to get these trucks where they'll hug to the racetrack like Terry Cook's truck is hugging, and then not be too upsetting through the bumps. You know, try to keep the front end on the ground, not let the things shake up the hill and vibrate up the hill because of the bumps. So it's very, very difficult and challenging racetrack for these guys to set these trucks up for.
And you know, the crew guys, the crew chief, the folks that work on these trucks, they need to understand right now that in order to win this race, you're going to have to be able to go out on about your 7th to 12th lap and be able to run somewhere around a 32:10. That happened. That's what Hornaday, that's what Harvick was able to accomplish. We see trucks right now that go out that have the same amount of laps on them, and if they're up 32:50, 32:60, they need to go work on it, or they're just going to have to figure they're not going to beat those 2.
We've got another Mike Skinner with 16 laps showing 32:10 his last lap. So he's another one in that class. Matt Crafton, 12 laps showing 32:17. TJ Bell 32:09 with 19 laps showing. So we've got a few trucks in that class right there. So we know we're going to have a competitive race.
And we talked to TJ Bell, and he sounded perfect from the truck. He was just reporting to him what it was doing, wasn't worried much about it. And then in the pit, he said, it didn't post a fast lap, but it's there. It's there every lap. And if you look at timing and scoring, he's right. He's right there with Harvick and Hornaday and the best trucks in the garage area.
Stacey Compton now on the racetrack. 41-year-old out of Lynchburg, Virginia. One interesting fact about this racetrack, the youngest pole winner here was 34 years old in David Rudeman. Everyone else who's won a pole has been over 40 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
And it's quite all right, isn't it? Phil, I noticed you jumped right in and said
absolutely.
That was okay.
And this guy right here is 20. So he would, if he could get the pole, he would just destroy the stats.
We have 20-year-old J.R. Fitzpatrick, 20-year-old Colin Brown, 18-year-old James Busher. We've got youth in this series, and they have some fast vehicles as well.
Taylor Malsom, another 20-year-old. And by the way, that old 23-year-old Kyle Busch, that's probably going to be pretty competitive here this weekend.
And in practice so far, the first 2 trucks have passed that 40-year-old mark a few years ago.
You mentioned Kyle Busch. He's making his way out onto the racetrack. He only has a few minutes before the end of this first practice. And again, in this series, we impound the trucks after qualifying. So they're working on race setups now, but they can't venture too far from that in their qualifying setup.
Yeah, very minor adjustments they will be able to make. As you see Kyle look, just take a glance in the mirror, puts his lens down there a little bit. No, he's going to drive up on this racetrack and run this thing wide open here. He's been out there for 1 lap already, and he ran a 32:10, which right now is about 16th quickest, but look for Kyle to put a pretty good lap in here. He's just set his tack back. He wanted to make sure he got a good tack reading on what his truck runs on the racetrack.
And when you run So when you run wide open, Rick, you don't have to make as many adjustments to go out and make a qualifying lap. You know, these guys can make adjustments with just maybe a little bit of a track bar and a little bit of air, and they'll be fine. Whereas if you're at a track where you got to let off in the corner and go back to the gas, the difficulty, the margin of error is greater, so you're going to have to work on it more. But these guys will just make minor adjustments and be ready to qualify.
Did you hear that truck hit the racetrack in the corner while you were talking, Mikey? It hit the racetrack, and you could hear it, and the thing jumped up the hill.
See it bouncing there a little bit. Ray Dunlap.
Hey guys, just wanted to let you know Kyle Busch came to the media center this morning to do some interviews, and he looked terrible. I walked up and asked Rowdy how he was doing. He said, I don't feel well at all. He's got a really bad sinus infection, and he said he just didn't feel good. He's going to try to sleep as much as possible over the next couple of days. So that may be part of the reason why they haven't been on the track a lot. I also do want to tell you a little bit about Mike Bliss, who, as you guys were saying, at the top of the charts, very good run for the 40 team. Earlier when we saw they had an oil problem, something had bounced up off of the racetrack and hit a fitting on the rear end and broke that fitting, and that's where the oil was coming out. It was a very simple fix. They just changed that line in the fitting. No problems with the racetrack, and Bliss says he's very, very happy with the way that truck enters. It's not tight at all. He's able to enter and roll through the corners very freely.
We were watching Kyle Busch there while Ray was talking, and Kyle, again, you could see that truck hit the racetrack and then him have to chase it. This is his last time through 1 or 2. You see that truck bouncing, and look how high he gets, Mike. He's all the way up into the gray stuff right out next to the wall coming off the corner. So the bumps were definitely inducing a situation for him. He was very, very fast. He ran a 31.77, which was the fourth fastest time.
Kyle Busch pulls the truck back into the garage. We'll be right back to conclude today's first practice for the trucks. Welcome back to Atlanta Motor Speedway. We talked about the youth on the racetrack. That's one of the youngest, James Busher, just 18 years old.
Did a nice job at California, had a top 15 finish, had a great run going at Daytona until he got taken out in an accident right at the start finish line.
What a great job that kid did down at Daytona. And we talked about him. He won his first ARCA race at 16.
Yeah, 16.
And then won Daytona, just a few weeks ago.
Then won his next one at Daytona.
At 18.
Yeah.
And he was racing for the lead in the truck series. I mean, he had to leave there, despite what happened to him in the truck race. He had to leave there just full of fire.
Florida might be his state, because that's where he won that first ARCA race. And it looks as though the black and red flags are being shown. That ends our first practice for the Camping World Truck Series. And we're going to head down to the garage, find out what the stories were in that first practice, right?
Well, I want to focus on Mike Skinner. They were out there for 16 laps in this X-Side Toyota, and they changed the right front spring a couple times. How good's your truck?
I think it's going to be real good, Ray. We're kind of on a science project right now, but it's a lot of fun, and it's an honor to drive this truck. These guys really work hard and bring nice stuff to the racetrack. And we only had 2 races under our belt, ran better in both of them than our finishes showed, so I'm excited about getting going here.
All right, we always have great races at Atlanta, and usually Mike Skinner's right in the middle of them. Adam?
And Kyle Busch is as well. 3 times he's won here in only 4 races. He only made 4 laps in that practice session, all of them coming in the final 15 minutes. The problem? The splitter rubbing on the racetrack. He's a hands-on kind of guy. Both he and crew chief Doug George checking it out. They feel like it's changes that they can make, get the truck better and where it needs to be, because happy hour is just over an hour away, guys.
Ron Hornaday, the fastest in our first practice. Mike Bliss, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, and Chad McCumbee are your top 5.
Yeah, Johnny Sauter leads the second 5. Mike Skinner there, a very, very fast average. Colin Brown, Todd Bodine, and J.R. Fitzpatrick rounds out the top 10.
Todd Bodine so successful on mile-and-a-half tracks. We'll see if he can continue that here. The rest of the programs here on Speed Today. NASCAR Live following us next. Camping World Practice at 1:30. And then the continued NASCAR presence.
Leave it on Speed, Rick. Leave it on there.
Stay right here. Now let's head over to Steve Burns and Hermie Sadler.